Hi everyone, welcome to Be an Artist. I'm here with Maddalena Ghezzi today, and she's a singer, composer, and improviser. Hi Maddalena. How are
Thank you,
you?
Petra, for having me.
Of course, you're currently in Milan,
Yes,
so the weather's nice where you are. We're very jealous.
it is bright blue sky. Yes. It's really
Um,
cool.
we met actually when you were watching a gig, right?
Yeah, you're well, I think it was my first gig after also many months in lockdown.
Yeah, it
And
was.
then
I think it
it
was
was my first
April.
time out to a gig.
So you're a singer. Are you mainly based in London, currently?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am mainly based in London, but I have a band that I work with in Milan.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've produced one album together and one on the go. And so at the moment, I'm in Milan working with them on the production
Great.
of the second album.
Can you tell us a little bit about your early days? How did you get started in singing and with your career, essentially?
So I guess I don't know. Like I remember a few memories. One when I was very young, I really liked recording everything. So I was going around recording things with my father recorder, and I think that was a good indication. I think from my family that I was interested in this kind of things. And then I started, going to choirs, local choirs in the town in which I'm from, and I started taking singing lesson. I think around like when I was a teenager, and
Mm-hmm.
then I took it from there. And I was very intrigued with the improvisational scene for some reason. I think like few friends were doing improvisation, and then from there I got introduced and interested obviously in jazz. And yeah, that's what eventually I kind of studied.
Did you go to college for jazz or did you train privately?
It's kind of like I mainly trained privately. I did a more of vocational path, I guess. I graduated in languages, so I studied Chinese and English at university and international relations, and then I did music alongside. Yeah, I was yeah. That was the main thing, and then when I came to the UK, I did a vocational qualification. It's sort of equivalent to like a 3 years degree or something like that. And in the meantime, I've been studying with Brigitte Beraha, mainly in the UK, that you probably have heard of. And at the moment, I'm studying with Sara Serpa, and I continue this kind of. I really enjoy the sort of mentoring aspect
Mhm.
of having other artists that help you out, I guess, and mentor you in your instrument, but not only the exchange with artists that also are from other backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. How did you find moving to London?
um well, I moved to 12 years ago, something like that. It was the usual kind of yeah, 1 year and then let's see how it goes. And then yeah, I've always liked London. Like I remember I visited London with my mom when I was 16 or 17, and I was intrigued by the city and how active and vibrant it was. And then yeah, when I moved, I think it took me a few years to kind of fully, I don't know, understand that I could go into music,
Mm-hmm.
because I was a bit confused, I think, at the beginning. I was in my early 20s and I was like, I don't know where I want to go. Can I actually make a living out of it? Yeah, I don't know. What about you? When did you move?
I moved also 12 years ago, also for like
Oh,
6 months.
and then it's like, oh, all right.
Yeah, it's because I don't know. I only moved because I got pissed off in Germany because everybody was telling me you will never gonna make it.
I sympathize with the feeling. I've
Yeah.
been told a lot of that.
So this is part of the reason why I want to do the podcast is I want to show different lives paths and different niches people can go into, because when I was younger I didn't know about this whole, like, what I'm working now every day. Like, I'm performing with so many painters, visual artists, like, video artists, live
Yeah,
music. I didn't even know that existed when I was younger trying to be a dancer. So all my focus went into going to auditions and trying to fit in, and sometimes I didn't necessarily fit in,
yeah,
if it makes sense. Like, I
I
didn't know
totally.
how to create my own opportunities. So now I want to create a platform where I demonstrate that creating your own opportunities is actually a thing. If a
Very
15-year-old
much
me
so.
would watch it, they would have some ideas of what they can do.
I think it's a great idea, Petra,
Yeah.
because I feel like it's a kind of idea of feeling that represented and inspired.
Hmm.
Like, it's often the case now within our field, I guess, also to see women um, up there, out there doing things, and then you'll go, oh, okay. I remember, always being surrounded by a lot of men, and it's cool. Like they're all fantastic people, the majority of them, um, but like there is always that feeling of going, surely I can't do it if there is no
Hmm.
one else that can. So that's
Yeah, I
like
think sometimes you have to see something happen in order to believe that
yeah.
it's possible.
Oh, totally. And I think it's a very legitimate like feeling to have, isn't it?
Mhm.
And also, I don't know, I guess demystifying. I mean, there is not one path to anything, but it's
Yeah.
always the case that people make you believe like you have to do that thing. But I don't know. In particular, in the field of the arts, I feel there is a need also to develop as a person and develop, I guess, your connection with your inner ideas, and it can take time for everyone when it comes to different timings, right? I don't know.
Yeah. For me,
That
it's
that kind.
very important to build connections.
I
Because
agree.
that's what I didn't know when I was younger. I thought, oh, I'll just be good at what I do, and I just go to auditions, and then people gonna see me, and I guess it works sometimes. But there's only 24 hours in a day, only 7 days a week. How many auditions you gonna go to? It's like I get so many more gigs from being recommended, or people see me
I
on
know.
social
Yeah.
media, or see me on stage sometimes, or just by talking to people, than I ever got from any auditions.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, same. Like having the strength to go and do, audition, a jam session, or just connecting to people that are like-minded.
Hmm.
And I think it takes a little strength that I didn't have at the beginning of going, do you want to collaborate with me as well? That kind of idea. Like I admire your work and I would like to understand if we can work together. And then sometimes it's not going to work is also another aspect. Yeah.
How did you find the program that you ended up? You said you did like a vocational program when you moved to London.
Yeah.
What do you remember what it was called? Does it still exist?
Yeah. No, what I mean by that is that I basically only did the final exam. And
Oh.
it's called LTCL. Is it licensed or something like that? I don't know if I pronounce correctly. Of Trinity and Kyoto, or Trinity
Ah.
College London, or something like that. Brilliant. I think I just wanted, that was for me to have a piece of paper. I had to work on the side. So I was working in a shop for a few months, working in a jewelry shop, funny enough. But it was a great world. It was interesting. It taught me a lot. And in the meantime, I took lessons in, oh God, I don't remember where now, but like I did all my, theory exams. So like I did, and then I found that was going to, I was going to jam session and practicing for my final exam. I met Brigitte Beraha. That was a very, very good. Yeah, she taught me a lot. Like she was, teaching me a lot about like leading a band or anything like that. I previously I had done private singing teaching, like, in this school in my neighborhood in Milan. And so, yeah, I guess I didn't need so much of like sort of the technique or that kind of thing. That world I knew a little bit, like obviously you never stop learning, but I wasn't ready to like lead an ensemble or to say I can do this or compose or anything like that. And so I thought, like, yeah, Brigitte really helped me with that aspect of going, okay, now you have to count in a full ensemble. What are you going to do? You
Mhm.
have to, present yourself in front of an audience. What are you going to do? And I think that was very helpful because it was the first sort of more practical, I guess, I don't know, boost that I had. And it was very good to hear it from, we had a lot of laugh. I don't know, we laugh a lot. And then I made a lot of mistake and a lot, and, but she was very, yeah, we had a lot of fun. And yeah, I learned a lot in that sense.
How did that relationship develop? Did you have lessons with her, or did she just take a liking in you and started supporting?
No, we had lessons.
Mhm.
And then I went to like also a summer school that she was part of, like in Falmouth in Cornwall, where she was teaching. That was useful. And mainly we had private lessons, and then I was going to a lot of jam sessions and practicing um, basically what I was, for the next week kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
It was quite scary, like
Yeah.
at the beginning, because I remember, people wanting to count in me, like counting the band in instead of me because they didn't trust me or something, or yeah, a lot of people wanting my number to go out, but not as musicians, And I was just like, I'm just here like you guys, just doing this thing.
It's so funny
Um,
because when I started going to jam sessions as a tap dancer, like the first few times, like maybe even the first 1 or 2 years, people looked at me like I'm coming from a different planet.
yeah, I bet.
Because it's not what they normally see. And I also didn't know enough at that time to be confident to count a band in, or sometimes I got so nervous that I overran the chorus. And then, like, I remember one time I called Caravan at a jam session with Tara Minton, a harp player
Yeah,
and also vocalist.
of course, yeah.
Yeah, you know her. And I called Caravan and it was too quick. And I was so nervous.
Oh.
So I just kept going and going and going, and another chorus and another chorus. And I'm like, oh my God. And like my legs were burning already. And then the drummer had to start filling in because I was dragging so much. It was so traumatizing.
I bet. My gosh. How did you find getting into, like, I guess the world of dancing and doing or dancing and painting um, in your time in London? How was it for you to get into this?
It was really weird because my first few years in my 20s, I think until I was like 27, I did only I only worked for other people. So I
Yeah.
didn't really have an identity of myself, and I never really tried to present myself like that because all I did was do what other people told me and try to be good at what I did, but I never created anything of my own. And then I was quite unhappy with that situation, but I thought in my head I always wanted to earn money as a dancer. So for me, it was like, I have to take this job because I'll get paid, and then I can call myself a professional dancer, because I always had this complex in me that I got from growing up in like a small town in Germany with plenty of people telling me I'm never going to make it, I'm never going to be successful, and you can't make money with dancing and all that kind of stuff. So I was just taking on a lot of jobs that I hated, like for example, Bollywood movies where you like stand on set like this for like 2 weeks. and
Oh
I
dear.
and then I started doing my first own piece. It was just like a small piece. I think it was 15 minutes. That Charlie. I did it about Charlie Chaplin's speech at the end of The Great Dictator.
Oh wow.
So I was dancing to
Fantastic.
spoken word, yeah, and that kind of sparked something in me that I was like, actually, this is how I can really express myself and show the world who I am, and find my place in the world and have a voice rather than just be, piece of uh, human entertainment, or like a
Yeah.
decoration almost sometimes what you are when you do a lot of jobs. I mean, there's also jobs that are really fulfilling for other people, but I wasn't really doing too many of those at that point. And then I did my second piece, which was called, I actually produced a solo theater showcase. So it was me and 3 other people, and we did a run in the Blue Elephant Theater. And then that was like suddenly, oh, yes, I can put on a show. Yes, I can create my own work. Yes, I can write my own press releases. This was like this huge thing for me.
Oh, yes.
That I learned so much. I think I aged about 5 years and 3 months.
I bet.
Because I was so stressed. I had like rehearsals all day, and then in the evening I tried to like send emails and invite people and organize, and but it was a great learning experience, and that kind of was literally the turning point for me to when I'm like started being confident suddenly, almost overnight, of I just accomplished this. Now I can put myself out there. And as soon as that started, one of the actors in the solo theater showcase, recommended me to my first painter, Patrick Fowry.
Oh,
Who
wonderful.
hired me for his exhibition in London for an opening. And then he took me on tour to Turkey because he didn't want to take a dancer on tour to Turkey, but he was like, "Oh my God, that was so great! You have to come to Turkey." Like he
Wow.
changed his plans just so he can bring me along, and that was amazing. And somehow, and then that was also the year I took social media much more seriously. In 2019, one of my New Year's resolutions was to take social media seriously and post all the time, post good quality pictures, document what I do, which I never did before. Before I was like taking a selfie, but it's not really promotion for your work, Like in 2019, I take it seriously, like for work. And then I got somebody messaged me on Instagram, Sean Rivers, and invited me to perform for his production of like a modern. It's called Rivers Rodeo. I think it happens every 2 months now, and that's where I met Aurelie Ferreira, who I work for Resonance. So then I started dancing for Resonance that same year, and our first gig was London Jazz Festival.
Oh, wow, lovely.
Yeah, and that happened also to be the first year I started working as a tap dancer, because I started tap dancing much later than everything else. I started when I was 26.
Oh, right.
So yeah, so kind of like from this turning point of suddenly taking the step to create my own work, I feel like I became more attractive to other people. So more people started approaching me, and more people wanted to collaborate. And I think work brings work. The more you perform and the more you're out there, the more people approach you because they see, oh, there's something going on.
It's possible.
Yeah, if you only have 2 gigs a year, it's like nobody's gonna approach you.
Yeah, totally. But it's very interesting what you say about like having this sort of moment where you go, I can put out my work and I know what my work is going to be like. And then all of a sudden you have, I think it's like almost like getting the first job when you're like, 18 and you're like, oh, no, the world is so difficult. And then all of a sudden you realize that even if, like you get, I don't know, any sort of job that one might get very young. Yeah, I remember I was going around like houses to get like it was a census thing, and people had to say which transports they were getting to go to work. It was just, but for me it was impossible before. You just think, oh my God, it's impossible to just do this jump, from being in school or whatever it is. And I think I don't know, it's very interesting what you say about having the confidence at some point to say, this is my identity, this is my piece of work. And then that being a sort of attractive quality to like your work.
I think the fear of failure is the real fear anyway. Yeah. So like you think, oh my God, I'm gonna put on this event and nobody's gonna come watch. Like that was my big fear.
It does happen.
Yeah, it does happen, but it's like it's still
and it's
one of my
fine.
fears. Yeah, exactly. What is gonna happen? Like, okay, you're gonna sit there with 5 people in the audience. But actually, I did a gig once with like 5 people in the audience. One of the first after the lockdown, we did our National Tap Dance Day. We did a gig, and how many people were? I think maybe like 7. It was at the Vortex downstairs. It was 7, and it was Oliver, and They had
And
the best time. That was like one of the, okay, it was like empty, but we had a great time because we got to perform. In the end of the day, as soon as you start, you don't care how many people are in the audience. You just want to express yourself, you know? It's
yeah,
not
yeah,
like you
totally.
performing thinking about the empty seats. You're just happy that you're able to give something to them, you know? And that
Absolutely,
was one
yeah.
of the gigs with the best environment. All the audience members, they didn't know each other before. They started talking, they started exchanging phone numbers. It was
Oh,
such a
cool.
great experience, you know? And then I'm like, this is what I was scared of for years. And it happened, and it was actually a good experience.
Nice. Oh, I'm glad to hear that that was the case. Yeah, yeah, it does happen. Like, that you have moments in which you go, oh God, um,
Yeah.
so many people. But I don't know. I also feel like for me, it was very interesting to learn and the aspect of music that is not, it also is not the composition and the beautiful part, like, but the part of like, as you said, promotion and writing press releases. There, even in that, there is so much to learn.
Hmm.
And there is content out there that is helpful. And I found like it was very good to kind of go, okay, how do like even just how do people get to the gig there? Because I have never been able to. Who is playing there, and then how to create a press release, and that kind of thing is definitely necessary. I wish I knew it a little earlier in my career. That I don't know, because I think we have this weird expectation. I don't know, that people like notice us or whatever,
Hmm.
but one has to put I know it sounds like so cliche, right? Like, but it's a big realization to just go, it doesn't matter, put yourself out there,
Yeah.
like do the work. And also, one thing that I've always found difficult is to stop, notice what you've done, and of course you're going to have millions of things forward to like still do and achieve and whatever. But also it's important to just have a moment to go, okay, I achieved this, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Because it is a tough industry, I feel. It can be emotionally tougher. So
Hmm.
I think it's useful to have tools that go, okay, stop saying you're no one and you don't have like you don't have good ideas, like, allow yourself to make mistakes, well, yada yada yada, that kind of attitude. um I guess I say out loud so that I remember for myself as well.
Do you still remember your first gig?
Oh God. First,
Like maybe first professional one? Because I think your first probably was as a kid, right?
sort of, maybe a few gigs that probably are the first ones around Milan in small venues. I remember I was nervous. I didn't know what to wear as well. That was funny. Like, I think, yeah, I don't know. As a woman on stage, there is this other level of like, not too much cleavage, not in black, not too, oh God. And yeah, I find it really difficult, I think, at the time, to just be myself.
Hmm.
I felt always like people were watching every single step and movement, like whether you're drinking a glass of water between a song or whatever, like, like, and so I think I felt like a bit watched, and I was a bit nervous in
Hmm.
that sense.
How long do you think it took until you really grew into your own skin and just be able to say, "This is me. I'm an artist. Take it or leave it."
Wow. I don't know. um, yeah, I feel. I don't know. I think. To be very honest, I think there is always a doubt in my mind,
Hmm.
which I don't know if is healthy or not. Probably not. But I don't know. I think in the last, let's say, 5, 6 years, I've been more like, this is me and I want to do this. And probably increasingly, just, I think, is a vocabulary that is quite interesting. Like, a friend of mine, for example, just put forward this idea that I think is very interesting. When people go to you or to an artist, what's your job? And you go, I'm a singer, I'm a musician, I'm a dancer. And so people go, oh, what's your job? You know, like, you know what I mean? And then like my friend, she's fantastic. She's a guitarist from Milan. And she goes, oh, you know, I make pieces of music, people listen to them, and then they feel moved. Oh, so but what is it that is your job? And then this kind of cycle of like, but what is your job? It's like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's very clear. Like, I'm a musician, these are, but it's not clear to the wider, because it's a bit weird. Not people think you just, you know, like, I don't know. I don't know what people think. But then I think sometimes is a vocabulary problem, no? Like finding the right words to say. I do many things. I'm an educator sometimes, and I teach part of music. Sometimes I'm a composer. So that means I write music down either on paper or I don't write it down and I think about it. I don't know. And
Yeah.
then sometimes that thing get performed in different situations, and that can be a venue, it can be a pub, or I don't know, a street, or you know, like I think yeah, that sometimes confuses people. But anyway, I feel right now, I think you know, uh, happy in my skin, if you see what I mean. Like I'm happy that these aspects, there are all these aspects in my life, and you know, like I guess, yeah, finding a balance between them.
Mm. That's a really
Being a
important
balance.
thing. That's a really important thing to touch on, also for younger people that are coming up, is that there are so many aspects. So and also revenue streams. If it's not only performing, it's not only the time on stage. It's
Absolutely.
composing for yourself, composing for other people,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah,
obviously when you record albums, um,
absolutely.
you have sales from the album. You can teach. So that's also a thing that I never realized, even before the pandemic. I have to say, like um, I always relied on live performance because that's just what I did.
Yeah.
I didn't even own a laptop. I bought a laptop with my last money before I applied for universal credit.
Yes, here
because
we go.
Yeah, because I'm
This
like, oh, this
society.
pandemic is probably longer than a few more weeks, so I need a laptop because there were so many Zoom meetings. I was like trying to do Zoom meetings on the iPad, and I couldn't.
Oh no.
The audio settings aren't good on the iPad for Zoom meetings, so I couldn't tap dance. It was cutting out when I was tap dance because it's classified as background noise. And
Of
on the
course.
iPad, you can't turn it
Right.
off. On the computer, you can. So I was like, no, I need a laptop. I literally rinsed my bank account. I had, I think, like £3 left in my bank account after I bought the
Right.
laptop. And it was good because I actually made a short film, and
Ah,
I made
cool.
some money with it. So, like, not a huge amount, but that kind of showed me, even in these circumstances where I'm only myself, I put my phone on a tripod, I edited it. Obviously, I was lucky
Yeah.
because it got shown at the Tate. But
Wow, lovely.
yeah, but like
Very
it
cool.
never occurred to me that I could do screen dance. You know, it needed
Nice,
a
of course.
pandemic for me to sit on a computer, and those things you're constantly learning and you constantly have to explore, because I think part of the reason people might not be able to make money with it is because they have this like one sided, like one dimensional view
Yeah.
on the profession. And like most people probably think they have to teach. um I think it's like most people think, oh, you're a dancer, you probably teach, and then in between you perform. But there's actually a lot of different um things you can still do, especially as a musician, because even as a musician, so many dancers need tracks. So just by like electronic sound design,
Yeah,
even,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
I think it's very important to understand that like you know the usual question, but do you live off your art?
Mm,
It's just a stupid question. Full stop. What do you
yeah.
like? Is it just so that people say, what does that mean?
Mm,
What does it mean? Like if one person is an educator for a day, produces album of the music they like, maybe they they do a gig in a restaurant every now and then to pay the bills, and for the rest of the time they do like the research on their own instrument and whatnot. Is that not enough?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? What, like, it's so silly, I don't know. And there is a lot of that, I think. I remember like watching this conversation that one drummer, American drummer that I really like, is called Kid Millions, and from a band called Oneida. Is the post-rock band from Brooklyn. And is it, to me, he's like if God kind of vibe. Like, I mean, he's a fantastic, very imaginative performer that I like a lot. And he touched on this on a conversation that I found on YouTube on, for college students. And he was saying, like, until I don't remember exactly what age, I had a day job because I wanted to be in Brooklyn. Rent is high. I wanted to gig every night. And then, I wasn't, that was the way I could then gig every night, but only to the music I wanted. And that was the thing that made me happy. Other people, like, do other type of, the kind of balance that life in a different way. And then at some point, he got to the point he had enough contacts and enough relationship for which he could just say, I'm done with my day job, and I can, let's say, leave off music. Here we go. In that sense. But it's like, it's not that before I wasn't doing it, first of all. It's just a process, and it's fine. Can you all, let's all breathe. Is all right. Is enough that you find the balance. So once find a balance that is good for themselves,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel it's important as a reminder, because sometimes
Also, like, it teaches you really valuable skills.
Yeah, I think so too. Like
jobs can do.
Yeah.
I even know, like, last week I met a software engineer that works part-time as a waiter because without the part-time job, she wouldn't be able to put anything into savings, and she's got certain financial goals. She like wants to, like, save up for a deposit. So it's not just the arts. Like, people always have this stigma of the poor artists, but I'm like, no, it's like we live in a very expensive city. And if you can make like, it's easier to hustle in your 20s and do stuff you don't like whilst nobody expects anything of you. And it's also, I think, psychologically, it's easier to handle a part-time job in your 20s than in your 30s or 40s, because you're still young and, things bounces off you easier. Like, at least for me, it was like that. I was very resilient as a 20-year-old, and now I'm just like, but I've been working on this for 15 years. Why? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. But
totally.
I think it's like, the criticism in general for a side hustle needs to stop, because normally side hustles are a really productive and positive way to maybe enable you to educate yourself further, or to build some savings, or even to learn extra skills. I learned a lot of skills being an events bartender, because I had to drive. Like, all I got was a clipboard and a postcode, and then you navigate and you make things happen. And now when I want to book a gig, I have the postcode and navigate and make things happen. Like, I've already went through several stages of problem solving and all of that. So I feel like, in general, people are always quick at jumping to criticism because people have side hustles, or feel sorry for people that have side hustles, whilst those people could have a very concrete goal in mind that they are making possible with that side hustle. So it should be a commendable thing, rather than like, oh, you poor little thing, you have to do 2 shifts a week as a way. It happens a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's like a balance, isn't it? Like, there is an economic aspect to everyone's life, and there is a creative aspect, and yeah, while you like better yourself in your art as much as you can, the art also, like, like, I think in a sense, yeah, you have to eat. Like, you have to pay your rent or whatever you have to do, like, and also have I don't know, like, I agree with Kid Millions, this drummer that I was telling about, that even have a little bit of like leeway or a little bit of free mind so that one doesn't have to become, you know, like it's really hard basically if you know, not having any money and then trying to do art. Your
Yeah.
brain is like I need to, you know, like is in a different state of mind. So I think it's, yeah, I think it's important, as you say, like this thing, it needs to stop. It's just
Mm.
it's not necessary any hurt everyone. Now, don't get me wrong, maybe some people are like, you know, 14 and they get signed to a fantastic label. Yes, that's great, you know, like, but not for everyone that is the case. So I think yeah, it's important not to just go, oh, but what, do you work on Monday? Oh my God. It's fine, yes, and so what? But
Yeah.
anyway.
What was your experience? Because before you said, as a woman, you were surrounded by a lot of men. Um, and I know there's, for example, Women in Jazz Media is an
Mm.
organization that supports women. What was your experience as a woman coming up in the jazz scene?
I think, I mean, I have to say mixed. I have a lot of like wonderful friends that are men and very supportive. I think sometimes there is an attitude around certain things that is it doesn't take in consideration maybe everyone's approach. So sometimes I don't know if it's like an aggressivity, like I don't know, jam sessions are, I don't know, an awful place sometimes for that thing. But I don't know if it's only to do with like a lot of men together kind of vibe.
Mm.
Uh, I think for me, the one one thing that happened to me that I didn't like is this kind of assumption that I was going, you know, to jam session because um, you know, I wanted to go out with musicians and not because I wanted to put myself in the same position as everyone else. That hurt me because I was like, you know, my early 20s, and I was just like, okay, let me see if I'm fine, if I can put into practice what I've learned. And then I was going one, a two, a one, and then people were just like looking at another person counting or
Mm.
something. So I remember this time in which there was a saxophone player organizing the jam session, and I was about to sing a song. I don't remember what it was, and then he walked up on stage and he started counting the band. And inside, I was just like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, you haven't counted for anyone." And I know that I'm the only woman in this room, but come on. So I turned around and I count on purpose. I counted the band at a different speed, and then and so they were all like, and then I just gave my back to this guy, and it's not, you know, I don't know, like, how can I say, it's not like a make a dick, I don't know, like as a person, but I think maybe we both needed to do this, have this situation, if you see what I
Mm.
mean. And I turned my back, I counted the band at a different speed, and then I was like, uh pretended that I didn't see him. I was like, what's the problem? I'm just counting. Why are you looking at me like that? And then we went off at my speed. And I think for me, that was important as a moment of, okay, can we all understand that I'm able to do this? Then
Mhm.
I looked back at him and he was like, cool. I was like, cool, great. I'm glad we're on the same page. But so meaning, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird. Like, um, and I, at the time, I was just like, oh, maybe, you know, maybe he didn't know, maybe. And then I was like, no, it's not an excuse. He didn't count in anyone else, like
Yeah.
if he wasn't playing or whatever, you know? So I don't think it's right for young girls and women to have to do this,
Mhm.
to have the, you know, to have the moment in which you burn inside and then you have to count in. It's not like you know what I mean, it's just such a silly thing, like such a silly, it's not that I'm saving somebody's life, I don't know, but like you know what I mean, it's just like, allow me to do this, and if I make a mistake, it's cool, like I don't know. But then, you know, don't get me wrong, like it's nothing thank God, nothing dangerous or in that situation has happened to me. Like in that, I know of other women having to deal with other situations that weren't,
Mm.
you know, weren't nice. But I guess that wasn't so bad. But it made me feel, yeah, I don't know. It made me feel, I guess, at some point I overcome a good step for me, for myself.
Mhm. So did
What
it get?
about you? Did you feel?
I don't know because I started and I think in jazz I never had resistance for being a woman. I had a lot of support because one of the
Great.
first people I met was Cleveland Watkins,
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
and he's incredibly supportive. And obviously,
Brilliant.
he introduced me to Orphy Robinson straight away because they like two peas in a pod. So, and they are so incredibly supportive. And they Cleveland invited me to come down to his jam session at um at the Vortex Freedom, the free jazz
Cool.
jam
Yeah,
session.
yeah, yeah.
And like, sure enough, the week after he was doing a solo gig, and he was like, "Oh, you should come and do a like little segment at my
Brilliant.
solo gig." So I did like one movement with him, and I think by having Cleveland and Orphy tooting my horn, I a lot of people were just like on my side by association because they're like, oh, if Cleveland Watkins is saying that she's a good tap dancer, then we're not gonna hold
So
any
surely.
go against it too much.
Well, that's so lovely. And I
Yeah.
think I have to say the majority of people that I've met, I was lucky. But I don't know, there are lots of association and groups that I don't know. It's an interesting thing, like, yeah, that supports women within, yeah, within the establishment. But
Hmm.
even in education, I think some, like having, more. I'm talking about jazz, but more women in music referred to as that genius woman,
Mhm.
that like the genius because she was a genius or whatever. I think it's important also to give that. We always do that to a lot of male musicians. Like that
Yeah.
guy is a genius. Like,
I think also like there's always
so,
been women in jazz.
oh, totally,
Like,
millions.
it's not like it's a new thing, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like you have to work harder because I feel like sometimes it happened to me, not with a jazz scene and particularly, but as a woman trying to ask for what I think I'm worth. A lot of times as a woman, I think people think you're bitchy, and whilst a man is
Mm.
ambitious by asking for the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Because if a
Oh,
man
totally.
asks for more money, they're ambitious, and you're like, yeah, you know your worth. If a woman asks for more money, that's really like controversial and difficult thing. It's like, what? Who do you think you are? Like, do you think you're something that it's not the same rules for women and for men at
Totally.
some situations, or like a guy promotes himself and he's hardworking, a woman promotes herself and she's attention seeking, or things like that. And it's because obviously all of us want to promote ourselves because all of us want to perform and sell tickets and and reach an audience. Sometimes
Yeah, I agree.
like from the business side of things, rather than the artistic side. I mean, I think I've also been particularly lucky because from the beginning I was just surrounded by really supportive people. Um, and I think as a tap dancer, I'm already a little bit an odd one out because I'm not really like a traditional instrument. So maybe that gives me a position of kind of, because there's not a man competing with me for the same spot. It's not, it's like, you have a female bass player or a male bass player, and a bass player is actually a thing that's needed in a band. A tap dancer is kind of, you don't need a tap dancer. So if you have a tap dancer, you already have an extra thing. So I don't know how much it might hurt me for being a woman in that regard. But I think from the business side, I notice it a little more. That
Yeah, I think also like from, promoters and stuff like that, like I think the more, the more we have a variety of people promoting and paying attention to whatever scene, I think the more you like bring it to, people attention to different aspects, because then I don't know, like every people will be attracted to different things. And I think, like if every venue has got, promoters that book different things because maybe they have a different eye to things. I always see as a positive, no?
Yeah.
And also, like, I don't know, I'm a big believer of creating a network amongst, like, supportive networks amongst also, like, let's say, women or gender minorities, and whatever,
Mhm.
in that sense. I think it's important to kind of, um, no, in a sense, help each other. We want to see the women at the forefront of instrument playing, or like then book more women in your band, even though you're a woman, kind of thing.
Mhm.
I think that is also interesting, and I think it's happening.
I think so. I think you know what
So
it's like in
that's
jazz.
cool.
I feel like it's much more. There's a lot of women leaders that help other women, whereas in the dance scene, I feel
No,
like
that's
another
interesting to
woman
hear.
is just an enemy because they've got like when you go to auditions and when you try to get jobs, it's you against them.
And this, I see,
Yeah.
I see.
And despite like
That's very interesting.
I know people that are leaders and creating opportunities in the dance world as well. But I feel like there's a lot more elbows out in the dance world than there is
Oh,
in
that's
music.
very interesting to hear. Very interesting. Well, I don't know. I always think it must be a very difficult world. Also, as you said before, you mentioned that you wanted to fully get a grip about social media and stuff like that. It must not be easy to post about, like, being a dancer, and finding an angle to, as you said, to your dance that is not maybe only, I've been in this show because I've auditioned to that
Mm.
APSC.
I mean, also now because tap dancing, I'm more established in the jazz scene, whereas
Hmm.
contemporary, it's actually a different scene, and I sometimes cross over into the jazz scene, but the contemporary dance itself has kind of a different scene than tap dance, where I'm literally just focused on the jazz community.
Hmm.
To find a bridge, sometimes I tell myself, even on my website, I'm like, how do I
Oh.
communicate that I do both
That's so cool,
separately?
though. Like, I understand the feeling. It's hard to communicate that you are two sides, you're many sides. But I wanted to ask you, it was very interesting. I was actually very happy that my first, gig after so many years, so many months in lockdowns, was yours, and with Gwendolyn, right? Gwen,
Gwendolyn
yeah.
Castle, yeah.
And it was really nice. And I was wondering, how did you put together something like that? And I remember all the shapes of your body first, in one color. It's very interesting. How do you go about movement and colors, in a sense, or
Yeah.
painting?
So I think the shapes, Gwen came up with an idea because she practices a lot and she's practiced a lot with, obviously there was a lockdown, so we couldn't see each other. And she had already drawn at live gigs and I think
Mm.
originally we met at Resonance where I was also dancing. So she had already danced, but she really worked on it. And she had a lot of shapes of me dancing that she had
Yeah,
printed
that was
out to
fun.
practice with in her studio. She even has some like I have to do an interview with her as well, and she has some little cardboard
That's
of
cool.
me in her studio. Like I'm everywhere, and she practiced like a lot with the shapes. So I think that's how we started with the shapes because that is one idea she had. So for this one we actually did some rehearsals as well. So we did 2 Zoom rehearsals just so
Wow,
because
cool.
it's a very large painting and we had to kind of finish it in a certain amount of time. So she had to like because when you paint on like a smaller surface you use your fine motor skills more, but if it's big you use your whole arm
Of
and
course,
you
yeah.
know so it's something. And that was her first mural actually that she had painted,
Oh,
so
lovely.
we had to practice. So we just practiced, like first on Zoom and like next door. I didn't have a lot of space, and then we were lucky to be able to get some rehearsal space in the art studio that she
Ah,
um
cool.
is like has her studio at, but like a bigger one where she could actually put rolls of papers on the wall that were kind of roughly the same size. Um,
Brilliant.
but for me, I think she looks at me and listens to the music more, whereas I kind of interpret the music. So other than kind of seeing the colors that are going on with my peripheral vision, I don't see too much because I tend to move my head a lot. So
Yeah.
I don't see much because I have to really like I used to get so motion sick. So now I train when I dance because all I do is that the whole day. Like when I throw my arm, I throw like my head as well. So I used to get really like nauseous from my own dancing. So I had to really train myself to really relax my vision when I do stuff like that because if you
Oh,
focus
wow.
and you have stuff going past you, I don't maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just sensitive that way because I get motion sick in like buses as well.
Oh, same.
But
So,
yeah, so I often don't even look at her that much. I can sometimes hear. I think I'm very much in tune with my ears, so I really respond to the music that's going on.
so nice. Yeah.
And
And I love
sometimes I hear
the
her
music that you
strokes.
selected. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was John
Oh,
Cage, I
cool.
think.
Yeah. 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 I remember. Yeah.
Obviously I love John Cage.
Yeah.
It's
Fantastic.
it's yeah. And we both like Merce Cunningham a lot,
Of course.
so yeah. So it was great. So yeah, but we basically for this one we prepared by actually rehearsing. But it was more it wasn't like she still improvised, so she was still responding. It was more to practice kind of a general outline because I think if you have I think it was like 5 meters by 4 meters or
Yeah.
5 meters 50 by 3 meters something. It's a
And
very
even
large
the
scale.
timings.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
while she's painting, she can't really see the whole thing unless she walks all the way across the street to look at it from a
And
distance. So that's why we had to kind of do a bit of a mapping out of the whole painting. Otherwise, you have too much going on one side and nothing on the other side. So you have to
of
kind of
course.
map it out in a way that it, because a mural normally you look at from far away.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
that's how we did it. But like a lot of times, I prefer with artists to just show up.
Yeah. I think there is a power in that, is that?
Yeah, because
That's
I'm very fresh. When there's a fresh idea in a fresh situation, I get a lot of energy by the newness of it and by the excitement of it. So I don't think
I
I
agree.
would dance as well if I did it like 5, 6 times in a row for improvised
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. 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 I think definitely the side of improvisation is quite interesting, that
Mm.
aspect of, I don't know if it's they're really tuning into like the other person in that specific moment because you don't yet know where they're going. Is an interesting yeah, it's a fantastic practice.
That's something
I
that
love
really
it too.
changed for me also when I started learning piano a little bit. I always like the last
Oh,
few years I
cool.
tried to learn a little bit of piano and some ear training and stuff. And I think the ear
Brilliant.
training this gave me made me much more responsive to music because I could hear little differences that I didn't hear before, or I could
Of
follow like
course.
one solo or one phrase through much more naturally than before. So now I just really just surrender to the music and move my body, but like I'm 100% committed to the music. And
Nice.
that's actually
Amazing.
yeah, that's how I move. Obviously like I take classes, I try to keep my body fit by doing like ballet and contemporary classes so I stay
And
fit.
boxing, I know. I know
And
that.
boxing.
I'm a fan of boxing.
I love boxing.
I mean, I am terrible, but like, I have a dear friend that taught me a little, and we were training in the park. It was
Mhm.
quite fun. He's fantastic. He was a boxer.
It's very good to cross train with dancing actually. Like I have scoliosis, so I've had back
Oh,
pain all my life. And since I started, when I was 25, I actually had a herniated disc in my lower
oh
spine. So I
dear.
couldn't dance for 10 months. I couldn't even put my socks on at one point because it was at the
My God.
lowest disc, like in my spine. And since I
Yeah,
started boxing, because when you punch, you really
you
train
have
your
to.
core, you get so much core muscles. I haven't had backache since I started boxing. And I've had
That's funny.
backache
It
since
wouldn't.
I'm a kid.
Yeah, one wouldn't say that that's the the healing power of boxing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great sport.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. Yeah, it's the little I did, the really I really enjoyed it. Um, but maybe
We gotta get you started when I'm back in London.
brilliant. I am up for it. I'm definitely up for it. I really like training. I think this is another aspect that yeah, it's very important to me, and I think it's part of in somewhat like creative training, having space for your body, like
Mhm.
that can be anything. I like doing, squats, sit-ups, and press-ups, going running, going up a mountain, swimming, or whatever. Not everyone likes that. Like people prefer, other type of sports. But I think it, to me, is essential. And
Mhm.
sometimes when I've got stuck in my instrument is so body bound, so like the
Yeah.
voice is just like the same thing. Yeah, it's in your body, isn't it? So I always find that sometimes I don't know, the movement is very important, even when using the voice. I've been in the recent years study with Sara Serpa this approach, Libero Canto, and also she enforces this idea of moving at all time, or
Mhm.
just kind of understanding where the tension occur. And I think definitely my inclination for sport has helped kind of like yeah, connecting and
Mhm.
using your body. um, that's what I was very impressed watching you when you were doing the concert. The strength, the grace, the like the connection is so, yeah, it's so beautiful, but also so strong. And I think yeah, like sometimes we play like this, like little robots, like standing there. Instead it's so good to just move and let
I
go, and
once
it's super
I
cool.
once spoke to Hailem Kim about that because she plays Dagum, and she's
Yeah.
like, there's always this thing of how you have to stand with a flute. But she actually started moving with the flute. So I actually studied Laban's movement message and dancing with a
Oh,
flute.
brilliant.
Yeah. And she said that really liberated her because she couldn't achieve the freedom that she wanted to have whilst standing in this stance of what like this and
Definitely.
still it's very
I
interesting.
think with the voice definitely works. Like, I'm sure, the voice is a very intimate instrument, but like it's the same thing. Like sometimes in my training career as a singer, I've been asked to like stand straight, the posture, it has to be like that, and you have to breathe this way and everything. And then sometimes I really felt constrained in that situation, and my voice was all like, in my
Mhm.
throat, I was hurting, or I felt really uncomfortable, or I couldn't understand. Like,
Yeah.
oh dear, I really, is this standing straight? I really feel bad. I don't feel comfortable. So moving, I mean, yeah, is essential.
Mhm. What do you do to kind of clear your mind?
I think sport is definitely a big thing for me. I'm a big thinker. Maybe that doesn't help. And so I do sport every day.
Mhm.
So, I actually schedule it in. So
Mhm.
as a thing for me, because it helps me, and different things from yoga to running to squats and press ups to punching the wall or whatever. But no, maybe not. Not the wall. But that it really helps me, I think. It's probably one of the biggest thing for, or going for walks in nature and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
What about you?
How do I clear my, yeah, boxing helps. I
Yeah.
think for me box I think for
But
me
I bet.
but I'm one of those people, like it's really hard for me to clear my mind. It hardly ever happens because I've got ADHD. I feel like I have 17 different things going on in my brain at any point of time. Um it's very so I actually tried to start meditating during the lockdown, and
Oh, I did a bit as well. Yeah.
yeah. And then you know exactly when I got stressed, I stopped because I felt too stressed to meditate, which is a really bad thing because when I was meditating, I felt much more calmer and good about myself. So, but that's something I have to be a little disciplined about, I think, because it made a difference. For me,
Yeah, I agree.
boxing is very good. because it's like the right amount of getting your energy out, but also focus. And also like I feel like it's really good for my mental health to do boxing, because you leave this training session and be like, wow, I've just done the hardest training session of my life. Now I can do XYZ as well.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about boxing. It's very good for my mental health to do this sport. It's good for my confidence. It's good because you constantly have to overcome your fear in the ring. And it's good because you get the instant feedback. If you don't focus, you get punched in the face straight away. You get the feedback straight away,
That's pretty good feedback, isn't
But-
it?
no, because like sometimes in life you have to wait several months before you get some type of feedback. You make a mistake,
Yeah.
and then a year later you pay for it. So I think that's mentally draining for me. Whereas in boxing, you make a mistake, you get punched in the face like half a second later. So it's, so it's like I feel like you learn, and you have like those little rewards, those little losses, constantly, and you feel like really productive. I feel like that's really productive for my personal development, and I think that's why I feel so good about it. Another thing that really helps me is to clear my mind, is actually to absorb other people's creativity. For example,
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
arts galleries. I watch
Oh,
a lot
yes.
of documentaries as well because
Same.
yeah, really.
Yeah, 100%. I actually forgot because I haven't been to many exhibitions this year. But yeah, I think art, I mean, Tate, ICA, I go to these places a lot. But even going to other people's gigs, but sometimes stepping away from, let's say, my side of art, that
Yeah.
is, the music world. And a lot of the music that I've been writing, like last year, was inspired by painters and, like, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same. Like when I go watch a dance gig, I feel like I'm studying. So I don't
Yeah,
feel
same.
like I can let go
Somehow.
as much. Whereas if I go to an arts gallery, I don't judge myself in an arts gallery because all I can draw is stickman. So I actually am able I'm able to like let go. Whereas in music or in dance, I always feel like I'm studying.
I think also what interests me is how different side of arts. So that's why, obviously you mentioned Merce Cunningham and, like kind of, when you have, let's say, a dancer, a painter, and a musician together that are looking all at, at the same thing, but with completely different eyes, I find it very intriguing that. And when I go to exhibition, I think that aspect, like it kind of relaxes one side and excites another, and I find it very inspirational.
It's very interesting because we all trying to express ourselves, eat the contents of our soul, but the result is different. It's like with
Yeah,
dance, you have movement, or you have sound, or you have a painting at the end of it. But it all comes from this human desire of wanting to express yourself and wanting to share your emotions with somebody.
yeah. No, very true. I agree. Which kind of documentaries do you watch?
Um, I watch a lot about like social rights and Black American history and um, y- just activism in general. Like I love the avant-garde period, for example, after the First World War, because I think there was out of this all the suffering and pain, there was such a huge burst of creativity. Um, the what I think the last thing I watched was Summer of Soul at the Barbican
Oh,
theater, Barbican Cinema. And it just came out, and it was basically happening at this, I think, 2 week after Woodstock, and it was the
oh,
black
wow.
version of Woodstock. So it was called the Harlem Cultural Festival, and it was just
Wonderful.
thousands and thousands and thousands of black people, and it was completely recorded, but the footage was never shown because um there were just black people. Like they didn't want black people, like, to celebrate black people on TV at that point. I think it's very important also to learn history because, for example, tap dance history, tap dance
Yeah.
comes from slavery.
Oh,
So I'm like, people died to be able to do this art form.
yeah.
So then sometimes I feel like when I have a hard day, this gives me the strength to carry on, because I'm like taking it that much more seriously, because I respect so much like the history from what it came from. People had to suffer so
Definitely.
much and fight so much to be even able to create this art form and to be able to perform this art form and celebrate it. So I wanna, all I have to do is show up. So like I feel like that gives me a lot of energy, because I respect the history so much and the suffering. I wanna make them proud in a way. Yeah.
Being like yeah, having like the roots of jazz, I think is very important as a reminder, that is black music,
Hmm.
and is, yeah, I don't know, having the respect and knowing as much as, learning as much as possible to
Hmm.
understand where you stand, where one stand. I think it's very important. Yeah, I agree with you. And yeah, I don't know. There is a
Do you
lot to
feel
learn
people
and a lot to
still
change.
do you still feel people are passionate about the history?
I mean, I don't know if general history. I am very passionate about history also because I think, it's, even when you visit a place, it's always interesting, even if it's your own, street in Milan or whatever. There are so many things that, yeah, I didn't know. I wasn't told. Like there was migration, even, within, let's say, Italy. I discovered last week certain, some movement of people from different region and, being treated very badly or whatever, that I didn't even know, obviously, because in school you don't go through everything.
Hmm.
Definitely. um yeah, I don't know, it's a very good question. I think it's very important not to forget and to be taught history, but not only one side,
Hmm.
which is obviously a common mistake, doesn't it? And yeah, I don't know. Um, I feel passionate, but I also feel the more I learn, the more I know that there is
Hmm.
so much more to learn. I guess, yeah, keeping in that the sphere of being humble and knowing that you don't know is a good thing.
Hmm.
Sometimes, no, to open the ears and ask questions rather than implying that you know about somebody else's suffering, or that
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Which is a
And
hard thing when you're younger, I think.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I think when you're in school, like, people always leave subjects like a bother, right?
Mm.
From every side. Like, I don't know. I felt lucky in the last few years of secondary school that I had a very passionate history teacher
Mhm.
that so made us, I think she related a lot of, we were studying, the majority of it was like the Second World War and contemporary Italian politics, modern Italian politics. But it was interesting because it kind of, she was connecting the dots that, when you're 16, you might not, connect, or you might not see that that was definitely related to your family, or that your grandfather or your grandmother did so and so, and so that aspect, I think, yeah. I don't know, but it's interesting. There is an Italian song called La Storia,
Mhm.
and then he talks about exactly that, like, in somewhat like people feeling so small in our lifetime,
Mhm.
that we don't realize that we are part of history, and it's all about, like, for example, it's not there is a phrase that, what is it that he says, something is people that decide to take all their things and leave a situation in which, for example, of uncomfortable situation, let's put it that way. um I think he was referring in that sense of like Italian migration in US, or like, but all the time, like, even in this situation, it's like it's people making this thing
Mhm.
that we call history. And I know, as again, maybe a mega cliche, but
Mhm.
it's important, as you say, to remember it and to understand, like, I guess, which step we can take, to in somewhat, I don't know, making.
How is it for you to work across two countries?
Oh, very good question. I find it very interesting because things are done differently, in a sense, but also I kind of really enjoyed, although I've been in the UK for 12 years, still having a connection here. So
Mm-hmm.
here I have a band that is called FUWAH. Now we work mainly, like we've performed in London a few times, even at the South Bank Friday, whatever is like series or whatever it was called
Mm-hmm.
before coronavirus in that world. And then
And
yeah, I
before
don't know. I find it
Brexit.
really Say it again.
Before Brexit.
Oh no, it was just before coronavirus in 2000.
Mm.
What was it? At the beginning of 2020, in fact, January
Oh wow.
2020,
Oh wow, it's one of the
right?
last things that
Yeah,
happened.
it
Yeah.
was it wasn't my last gig, but it was the last gig. Like they came back to Milan, and 2 weeks later they were in lockdown.
Wow.
So I don't know. With this band, for example, what I really enjoy being connected to the Milanese side of, let's call it jazz experimentation and whatever, and not have lost. I would have lost, I think, this connection if I didn't have this band. So every time, I basically every time I want to even come to visit my family or whatever, like I organize we organize concerts. We've participated to Milan Jazz Festival, and that kind of thing. And then sometimes they've been coming to London. I think I don't know. I enjoy this. I really enjoy this side. And there is, I think, what always strikes me is quite interesting that with all my projects in London, obviously London is so big, and we know we are all very busy, and so often you have to do like 2 hours rehearsal. You have to book people 5 weeks in advance. I'm sure you sympathize with this, and in these 2 hours you just have to nail everything, whatever. And then here is a completely different side. Maybe people go, oh, we have a gig, we're going to book 1 day rehearsal, like for like 3 or 4 gigs or whatever. But in the meantime, in the middle of the day we eat lunch, and then there is maybe a coffee break. Everything is stretched. So
Yeah.
at the beginning, with my Milanese mind in London, I was just like, oh my god, like, do you want to stay for tea at the end of a rehearsal? Or and then people, no, sorry, I have to go to another rehearsal. I was like, oh gosh, okay. And then sometimes when I come back, to Milan, then I go, guys, surely
Lunch
we
break's
can
finished.
short. Yeah, so we can shorten this. So these aspects I find it, but now after so many years, I enjoy it, and I think it's interesting to work in different situations.
Mm. How is the scene in Milan? Is there a lot of jam sessions or um is there a lot of improvised music?
Yeah, there is like, I mean, again, like, I think, yeah, there is a lot of improvised music.
Mm.
Maybe I'm not, well, there are like, yeah, Frana, I mean, in Milan, there is quite a lot. I don't know about jam sessions. I think after this, the COVID, I wouldn't be able to pinpoint you to go to different
Mm.
places. But definitely, yeah, there is a lot of like improvisation, and people doing also like things like dance with like yeah, music and dancers and painters working together.
Oh really?
Definitely there is that aspect too. Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
And I don't know, I have a few friends like from the side of Milan, I'm in a town in the outskirts of Milan that are street artists. So I've always been involved in this, connected even from afar to this scene, and I always found it very interesting. So
Mhm.
going sticking posters up in the night or whatever, like, or just watching really. And, yeah, it's an interesting, I really enjoy that aspect.
Do you think it's less institutional over there?
What do you mean by that?
Because I feel like here you always have to have a plan. You have you send your press kit like this. Um, you list your gig in this and this and this and this online page. You write your press release like that. You have to put everything like I feel like here everything has an agenda. It's like running a, it's like being a CEO
Mm.
sometimes just to put on a gig somewhere. It's
Yeah,
interesting
I understand what you mean. Like, for
because you
example,
just
like I
spoke
think one.
about posters overnight, and I'm like, I don't think in London you would run around like.
No, no, this I meant like my street artist friends that do these
Oh,
things,
okay.
but like there is a there is a definitely different attitude,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. Like I was talking about it yesterday with a friend because definitely in London, I don't know. I think I had to learn to work at speed in a sense, and um, and making sure you know that you have the website that is up to date, that you know exactly where you're going, that the press release is released that day and this and how and what the connections and whatever. I feel, but I don't know if it's only now an external point of view because obviously I don't live here. Yeah, there are different waves, different people that work in different ways, of course. Um, but maybe yes, there is a little bit of less need to have that sort of attitude,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a lot of seems to be at least for me as an external person a lot of like this person connected to that and being able to connect the dots and you
Mm-hmm.
know but I don't know like yeah, I don't know. But interestingly, for example, for I don't know the Milan Jazz Festival, they do a round of you can apply online. Then, if you're called back, there is actually a
Oh,
system, you
really?
know, in that sense. Yeah.
Interesting.
So we are, yeah, with my Milanese band. It's a bit of a secret, but let's see. We're in the process. I'll release a few things eventually.
Mm.
But like you know, it's a lot of it's quite standardized, which in that sense I found there's a little bit less. In London, I found for London Jazz Festival is a little bit more chaotic, you know, in that sense. Like, but here, you know, I don't know, they've opted, at least I don't know if it's only for COVID or whatever, to, you know, allow local band or whatever to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you can apply on this website and then they select certain people and then there are auditions and then there are callback. And so I don't know,
Hmm.
it feels like an interesting, it is a good way. It doesn't happen all the time this way.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like
So
in London it's also very different because there's so many different venues that are part of London Jazz Festival. It's almost not one festival. It's like 30 festivals. There's so many
it's
venues.
interesting, yeah. It's always hard to understand with these ginormous things. In particular, if you're working as an independent artist, how to get in, I guess, or where.
How was the whole COVID period for you?
Well, you know, aside, you know, obviously the drama or the terrible situation, I think for me it was very useful.
Mm-hmm.
I found that I am a bit of a geek in that sense. I like, you know, studying, yay, and reading weird things. So I did a lot of composition and I studied a lot. So I feel in a way better position now that I felt now almost 2 years ago, really. And so in this sense, like a mega shout out, really, like to you know Sara Serpa created this group of composers, and we have met now. I think maybe 4 or 5 times and they were all female composers, and we met weekly, and we you know presented. Basically, we had like a compositional, how can I say, homework or tasks every week, and so that kept my passion and my imagination going all the time because every week you had a compositional task.
Mm-hmm.
So, and an interesting thing is that, you know, every Wednesday or not, whatever day it was, uh, we met as a group, and it was like sometimes it was 5 composers, then maybe the next slot was 6 composers, sometimes four, from everywhere in the world. And every time we show our composition, And I think it gave me the strength that, that we touched on this before, the strength to make so many more mistakes and just going, this is what I've produced in such a short amount of time, a week to compose a piece, having a score already, having a recording ready, even if you did all vocal layers, it doesn't matter. But like knowing exactly what's going on is a lot, is not normally how it's done, having
Mhm.
1 week to produce everything, you go insane. But I think because of that, there is some magic that happens. One really focuses and concentrates on I guess the technical aspects of it, but also allows it just to go, and then other people will go, not so sure about the A section. What about? And you're like, I know, I don't know where to go. That was it. I did it because I was in between other things, and I think that gave that approach of like trying out different approaches to composition, uh, and then yeah, it was very powerful. I think having time to study and deepen like oneself so much in this case my instrument, which the voice.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that's it. Yeah, I find it I don't know, I find it useful. Then I learn a lot about um press releases and things that I didn't know before, or I wasn't doing properly before, and I didn't have the time to train. And so online there is a lot of opportunities, right, to train. And then I put out 2 EPs. I wrote an album
Oh
with my
wow,
Italian band, so it was
amazing.
very productive. I felt like I was really working hard, but it was, I don't know, it was good. Like the response to the EPs was also good, and I've sympathized with what you said before. And I think it's the first time that I fully put myself out as, this is Maddalena Ghezzi and this is my idea.
Mhm.
Although this is a project called Minerals, and is basically I released this each EP with different musicians, and there are small collaborations with the idea to in somewhat paint through the years
Mhm.
um, a, a process of of growth, or process of research. And then I would like to do an LP at the end with
Mhm.
one song from each collaboration. And my collaborators are writing articles for a potential anthology of writing. So I would like to do this kind of I don't know why, maybe for a research, or for me making sense of, well, I mean, yeah, no, I have some reasons,
Yeah. Well,
but
even to document
yeah. And I
your
think
life.
I like, I am, I know this sounds weird maybe, but I am very passionate about what comes out from collaboration with
Mhm.
others. And so also it's been a very good process of, now I think I've released two, one is finished, bound to be released in the autumn. And then two others are in the making. And I don't know, it's quite interesting to like kind of for me to analyze how I approach each collaboration, and how even on the human side, not only
Mhm.
on the music side, sometimes, for example, some collaboration I'd written 3 pieces or 3 melodies, and then I send them over to another person, and then they start thinking about working together. Some other time is fully improvised in
Mhm.
the space. Some other time, there are different aspects. um, and how do you deal with rejection, or how do you deal with people saying, I don't like this melody?
Mhm.
you know that was a good learning curve for me, because what do you do? Like, there are, you can go, what do you mean? Is my melody is good?
Mhm.
It's just that person really telling you they don't like your melody.
Mhm.
Or what if it doesn't fit? It just, accepting that maybe it doesn't fit this collaboration, but it will eventually fit something else. Or maybe it's to ditch in the bin. Maybe it's just done. It's just actually, yeah, I don't know. I find it is interesting, no, that human side of understanding. You have to be really strong and going, this is my idea, what do you mean? But
Yeah.
then also soft and saying, accepting, analyzing, maybe thinking about it, or I don't know. I felt it was a good process of growth for me this year
Yeah.
to, also kind of learn how to accept, in a sense, I don't know if it's a failure. I don't like calling it failure,
But
but
I mean, like
accepting
sometimes
this
it
kind of
doesn't.
things.
Yeah, because there's just sometimes melodies that are good, but they're not right for what you're working on. But it
Absolutely.
doesn't mean that they're like bad work. It might just not go with the vibe that you're going
Absolutely.
for that particular recording with those people that you're collaborating with.
Yeah. And I think it's always like a balance, no? Though, like in particular, when you put yourself out there and one feel vulnerable and you put a piece of work out there, and then some person, like a person goes, "Oh, I don't connect with this, or I don't like it." How do you deal with that? I think it's important to give a little bit of time
Mm.
to that thought and go, "Oh dear." But it's cool. It happens to everyone.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so
Cool.
much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
I'm gonna log. I'm gonna link all of your info in the description so people can check you out. And
Nice. Thank you.
see you guys next week.
Bye.